FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's 6/5/19. Well, hey, a very disappointing jobs report from ADP, which used to stand for something payroll, advanced data processing. That's what it was. It was actually a New Jersey company. I knew lots of my friends' fathers got wealthy from that company. I think Lautenberg was the culprit behind it. But back in the day, when there were mainframes, if you wanted your payroll done, you went to ADP. And evidently people are still going to them, even though there's 1,000,001 payroll services. I use Mom and Pop's payroll service. It's a little storefront here in northern Palm Beach County, and you can always be sure that they're going to screw up the withholding and cause penalties, but it's a mom and pop payroll outfit. Why not? Hey, as always, email us, kl@kerrylutz.com, with your questions, comments, interjections, feedback, criticism, insults, comedy, whatever. Just email us, kl@kerrylutz.com. Well, gold was up $17.40 the ounce earlier this morning when I woke up. It's now up a puny $3.40 the ounce, trading right around $13.29. Silver down 3 cents, $14.77 on the bid. Platinum takes a real hit, $18 down. It's still trading so far below gold. It's ridiculous. $8.01 the ounce bid. And palladium, which has been the hottest metal around by far, down $18 to $13.10. That's significant, as Gary Wagner will inform you. And Gary and I have been friends for years. TheGoldForecast.com. That's where you find him. So, Gary, welcome. And palladium, you seem to think that there's a relationship between gold and palladium. Gold should be trading for more than palladium, because after all, what could you do with palladium other than stick it in your catalytic converter?
That is correct. Good afternoon, Kerry. It's so nice to be back with you. The interesting thing that I've been noticing about palladium and gold in terms of the ratio is just the other day, gold overtook palladium for the first time in quite some time as the most expensive precious metal. Yesterday, palladium overtook gold again, and today it's the opposite. I'm looking, of course, at the futures market. 1333.70 is the current fix on gold, and palladium is 1323.90, because that's down about 1.25%, and gold is up about 0.4%, a far move from the highs, as you pointed out. But gold once again has regained its title as king of the hill, so to speak, and I think that's where it really belongs. This will age me, and I'm sure you possibly remember this too, but I remember palladium being about $100 to $150 metal.
Yeah, it was nothing.
Yeah, and the fact that it overtook all of the platinum and gold was quite interesting. It's obviously a supply issue, because the vast majority of palladium is mined in Russia. There's some in South Africa, but there's none anywhere in North America. So it's tightly controlled by one government, and
by
when
one
that
person,
happens,
one man, Vlad Putin. That's
true. That's true. One government in Russia is one man. That is correct.
Hey, it's interesting. The other source is they actually recycle platinum and palladium. When the car gets scrapped and it's got a catalytic converter, you pull it out. I don't remember how much platinum and palladium is in a catalytic converter, but it's pretty substantial. And
yeah, I think they're able to pull out, if memory serves me, like 6 or 7 grams of the precious metal out of the conversion when they rip those things down.
Yeah, and platinum is actually a better catalyst but none of the car companies have revamped their regular internal combustion engines to actually use platinum again, which is what they used for years. It's the same amount of platinum and palladium. So you'd think if platinum is selling for, a third less than palladium, they would have switched back. But there's probably a whole bunch of retooling costs involved, and 3 to 7 grams. I mean, how much you talking about here? Like $100 worth of platinum or palladium in a catalytic converter. There's still a little bit of platinum in there, but not as much as there used to be.
Correct. From my understanding, palladium actually neutralizes one chemical or one carcinogen, so to speak, that's part of the exhaust that platinum doesn't. And that's why they're using both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the fact is platinum's a better catalyst. Maybe there's some type of discharge that palladium hits better than platinum, but platinum by far better catalyst for all the other, the nitrous oxides, all that stuff. I'm going to do a little research on that. We'll put out a tweet about the composition of catalytic converters, not to get sidetracked, but the average Joe Sixpack, and you could throw him 100 pounds of palladium and he'd think you were throwing lead at him. Nobody, even though it's called a noble metal, like gold, silver, platinum, palladium, even platinum, they don't know anything about, but at least people have heard of platinum. Joe Sixpack knows nothing. So, but we're at an interesting time here, Gary. We're at a point where generally this is a weak seasonal time, although advances in June and into July are not unheard of, but they don't last. But this one feels like it's not going to last, but it feels like it's not going to retrace back under 1,300. If it does, not by very much. You getting that vibe?
I certainly am. There are some seasonal tendencies to gold, but what we're getting is some unique environments in terms of Fed action that's perceived to happen in the future. And then the trade war has really begun to hit the global economies. And so you've got multiple countries worried about that. And all the news I've been reading over the last couple of days seems to allude to quantitative easing over in Europe being kind of kicked back up. Of course, correct. We had Bullard on Monday say that a rate reduction is actually appropriate. We had Powell come out yesterday pretty much stating the same thing. Of course, Powell is a chairman. Bullard is still a voting member. And what that shows me is that when you've got two or more in the Fed, there's just not that many voting members. It tells me that there's some strong support for rate cuts.
Yeah. Well, I'm taking an Alfred E. Newman view towards things. If you don't know about Alfred E. Newman, President Trump recently insulted Mayor Mike Buttplug by telling him he looked like Alfred E. Newman. And if you go back ways to the 60s, you will remember Mad Magazine, and there was a picture of Alfred E. Newman, who's a goofy looking character with very bad teeth, and subcaption on it was "What me worry."
What me worry.
Yeah. And it's just honestly, I spent so much time worrying about all this stuff that I'm kind of done with it. We're finished. Me and worrying, right?
Right. Well, it doesn't seem to change anything that much. I think that we're in a unique environment, though. I mean, the recent initiatives by the current administration, especially the one about Mexico having tariffs, I believe that's supposed to start on the 10th if they don't resolve it at 5%.
Yeah, 5 days away.
It's kind of out of the blue.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. That's for sure. Who could expect that? But leave it to Trump. You never know what he's going to do. And maybe the markets don't like the uncertainty, but it seems like his constituency does.
And that's who he's playing to as his base, obviously, in going into an election year. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So is it just political theater? There seems to be some substantive policy determination or issue behind it. What I do like is that everybody was telling the guy not to do it, and he just blew them off. His leading economic advisors, all these geniuses said, don't do it. You're going to break the economy. Well, the economy now is looking like it just might be broken, but the market has not capitulated here. The stock market is recovering losses from when the tariffs were first announced, and it looks like it's consolidating.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Trilogy Metals is a world-class developer in Alaska's Ambler Mining District. The company already possesses 8 billion pounds of copper, 3 billion pounds of zinc, over 1 million gold-equivalent ounces, and now over 77 million pounds of cobalt. Trilogy's Arctic project boasts an after-tax net present value of $1.4 billion with a 33% IRR. Trilogy is led by an experienced management team with proven success in discovering and developing projects in Alaska. The company is well capitalized, has no debt, and possesses strong institutional support. Trilogy trades on the New York and Toronto exchanges under the ticker symbol TMQ. To learn more, go to trilogymetals.com. That's trilogymetals.com.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
I mean, yesterday we had in the major indices, S&P 500, Dow, and the NASDAQ, all of them moved up over 2%. I think the NASDAQ was the leader yesterday, up about 2.5%. Those are sizable moves when you get a 500-point uptick in the Dow. That's something that people take notice of.
Yes, a 500-plus point move on the Dow. It's up today, too. We should have mentioned that. I was remiss. It's up 168 points, give or take, which, I mean, the Dow is up to 25.5. And, it could do just what everybody expects it not to, Gary, and hit a new record, especially if, next week, the week after, 17th and the 18th is Fed meeting. If they cut, and they could, certainly, but even if they don't cut, they're going to say all sorts of dovish, nice things to jack the market up. You could see a new record next week, couldn't you? Or in 2 weeks, I should say.
That's true. And what's unusual about the potential of Fed action coming up, first of all, it's becoming factored into the market, but they're looking for about 0.75 basis points, 0.75% in terms of a rate cut between now and the end of the summer, certainly by the end of the year. And that's fairly substantial. I mean, Trump had been asking for that for quite some time, and Reuters came out with an article yesterday saying, well, Trump is getting what he wants, but not for the reasons he wanted it. It's because of the uncertainty of the trade war that the Fed wants to continue, as they call the economic expansion. And the only way to do that is to make money cheaper once again.
I guess that's it. But it's a little shocking. But then again, where the U.S. is out of sync with the rest of the world's monetary policy, and that's leading to a flood of money coming back into the country as well, right?
Well, that's correct. And one thing is that the Fed has historically, especially over the last 5 years, been the leader and not the lagger in terms of central bank action. And so we had the Fed was the first to come out with quantitative easing. They seem to react a little bit quicker, or it might be that our markets require a little bit more finesse in terms of their actions itself.
Yeah. So a little finesse and hope for the best, right?
Absolutely. But what I'm going to be most interested to see is what happens on Friday when the non-farm jobs payroll comes out, because that's forecast to be 180,000 new jobs, but the ADP was forecast to be 173,000, but came in at 27. If we get that kind of a dismal number, that below expectation, that's going to shake up the markets.
Yes, it's going to. Can you imagine? And it gives them a fig leaf now, too. It's like job growth is slowing. Well, you knew that job growth had to slow, right, Gary? Because we were hitting generational peaks in terms of unemployment, even with the cooked numbers that we currently use. You knew that employment was peaking because claims for unemployment insurance we're at generational 50-year lows. And
Correct.
then you say, how many more months can you go on adding 150, 250,000 jobs? It just can't really go on like that for indefinitely, can it?
Well, when you consider that the unemployment rate is the best number, in 15 years, there's only so big of a jobs pool in terms of potential people that want to reenter the workforce or are just going into the workforce. So you're absolutely correct in that the number of possible applicants, so to speak, is dwindling. And so how can you continue to expand by 150, 200,000 a month when the pool is shrinking due to that fact? And you've got the baby boomers retiring also. So
yeah, you getting ready? You getting ready to retire, Gary?
Ready. But you know what? I the way I look at it is I retired 10 years ago. I just wake up in the morning and do what I love. So otherwise I'd be bored. That's what it's about.
You got to love. It's so important to love what you do. And I can't tell you how much I love it. It's just, we do this, I didn't mention, and I should have mentioned, I forgot, but my 8th anniversary doing this full time is going to be actually the day after tomorrow, on Friday, June 7th, 2011. I got this idea.
Happy anniversary. You've earned it. You do a great job, and you keep the public informed of things that the base of newscasters don't report. And there's people out there that realize that if they need a big picture, they need to hear more than what the national stations and the basic news associations are putting out.
Yeah, it's so true. So true. But man, 8 years ago, it's just amazing. I mean, I was doing it a few months before, but not full time. It was June 7th of 2011 that I started. And, over 6,000 shows. Can't even believe it. The time has gone by. There's nothing else in the world I would have rather been doing all this time. Anyways, so when we look and we see what's on the horizon here, it feels like the dynamics of precious metals market are changing.
You know what, Kerry? It's about time. Considering that over the last 2 to 3 years, we've had that really tough ceiling at 1370. This year's high was even lower than that, 1350, which, by the way, overnight it challenged, unsuccessfully taking it out. But 48.90 in the futures markets, 1348.90 was the high today. It's at 1334. So it's about time that we break out of this. We definitely bottomed, I believe, at the end of 2015, 2016. I think gold went as low as $10.40 per ounce. And that's after coming off of the record highs mid-2011. So you had a huge period in which you had a slow and methodical decline in pricing. It washed out at about $1,000, but you never really had the momentum to even get it back to 14 or 15 again. This could be that time, because the one thing is that this market right now is not moving on technicals, it's moving on fundamentals. And as always, if the fundamentals bear it out, it will continue to devalue the dollar. The dollar's been exceedingly strong. There's many out there, including myself, that think that there's a ceiling at around 97, 98 on the dollar index. We get some weakness in the dollar. We get some concerns about a slowing global economy, as well as the United States, of course. And we could certainly see the necessary components that would take gold higher. And so that's the first thing. Now, whether or not it does that is another thing, but we're finally seeing the kinds of underlying fundamentals that are needed to move the market to higher ground. And to me, the fact that it challenged 1350 today is impressive, but yes, I really want to see it close above 1370 on a closing basis, because that will tell me that we are finally moving past that stage and into a new stage, whatever that new stage is going to be.
All right. Well, hey, from your mouth, and I think you're probably right, it feels like it's got all the dynamics, both the technical and the fundamental, all seem to be pushing in that direction. Gold stocks were really up. Now they've gotten a bit slammed, and well, let's see what happens. So anyways, Gary, your site, tell us about it, how we take advantage of your really good offer?
Well, thank you. The goldforecast.com. We began in the end of 2009, beginning of 2010, and that was really when gold was really just starting to ramp up and run higher. We've endured the slow times as the market methodically moved lower. And I think that gold, as we've been talking about this entire show, has the opportunity to really becoming active again. And of course, if we see a continuation of the inability for China and the U.S. to resolve their issues, because look, those two superpowers drive the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. And if you get slowing growth in China and the United States, Europe, the emerging markets, they have to follow because they're lagging behind the actions of the two superpowers. And so we're living in most interesting times. And depending on how that resolves itself, or if it carries on for a while, is really going to be an underlying fundamental that pushes gold prices higher. Currently, I'm looking at, I had 1362 as my upside target. The way it sold off today at 1350, I could be off by about $12. But my sense is that over the next, say, 2 to 3 years, we're going to see it take out 1400 and start to generate moves more close to 15. Those are the numbers that I am looking at. Now, depending on what happens, fundamentally will determine whether or not that is a forecast that becomes part of the fabric of the economy. But for right now, that's what my numbers tell me.
All right. Well, your numbers I don't disagree with them, because I think that we've kind of reached a tipping point here, both in the economy and in these markets. And hey, we'll just have to check and see, and we'll check in with you in a month or so. Keep checking in with you for the rest of the year, figure out what the heck is going on, because something is going on. We might not be able to figure it out quite yet, but eventually we will. Hey, just email us, kl@GaryLutz.com, questions for Gary, myself, and about the show. Also, Twitter feed is @GaryLutz, Facebook page, Financial Survival Network. Gary, always a pleasure having you on.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure to speak with you, and I look forward to doing it again soon.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.